it appears that Palantir is preparing for the worst-case scenario. The worst may be something unthinkable.
It feels kind of like CIA-ish. Like I mean, if you think about also that, at least the relationship that this company has had with the government.
Oh, this scares the living hell out of me. Because when you say Palantir, it's really Peter Thiel, who's one of the most brilliant investors
Genius.
of all time.
Libertarian guy,
yes.
right?
I'm willing to wager my money on Palantir because I believe it has the data to accurately predict what will happen. And what Palantir has actually come out and said is that the company is preparing for a black swan event. Palantir, one of the most highly anticipated companies on the market right now, just purchased $50 million worth of gold bars. Now, of course, this raises a lot of concerns and red flags. People are asking why Palantir, among other businesses, put a not insignificant amount of its cash reserves in physical gold, and what they think is coming next. Well, lucky for you, that's what we're here to discuss today. We'll talk about what really went down with Palantir, and why they may have taken this route, as well as what it all means for the rest of us.
It's interesting. It's sort of surprising. We were expecting like a Bitcoin or something like that, or an altcoin.
This is why it scares me, because Peter Thiel is almost never wrong. He's always ahead of trend. And Palantir specifically exists for one reason. They are a predictive analytics fund that helps governments and Fortune 100 companies be ready for the future. So if their predictive analytics are saying we need to stockpile resources in event of this global catastrophe, that scares the hell out of me, because that's not your crazy uncle with a tinfoil hat. That's somebody that's been proven right again and again and again.
Some of you undoubtedly know who Palantir is and what they do, but I'm sure a lot of you don't. So for those unfamiliar with the term, Palantir is a business built from the bottom up to sell information technology. The majority of their clients are from the United States government, the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, FBI, NSA, and ICE. They're also working more with banks, startups, and other technology firms in order to expand into the private sector. Why is Palantir generating so much buzz right now? Because at the end of each financial quarter, businesses such as Palantir must make public a slew of economic data, and it was stated in Palantir's latest information that the firm had bought $50 million worth of actual gold bars. Now, when someone invests in gold, they generally purchase an ETF or a product that provides them exposure to gold. They don't buy the actual physical metal because it is more costly and complex. When you acquire gold through an ETF or directly from a broker on the internet, you'll almost certainly be purchasing unallocated gold. Simply said, you'll buy a derivative with an exposure that gives you the option to buy gold at some time in the future. Now, what Palantir has done is purchase $50 million worth of physical gold bars. They have actual gold bars in their possession. Palantir has also paid off all of its debt. Now, if it doesn't seem unusual, it should.
This is one of those days you bookmark. This is them saying, you know what, central banks are out of control, black swan event, good for them. And my sense is you're going to see more of that, and maybe them dip their toe into crypto as well.
Palantir, our high-growth, fast-paced tech company that has never made a profit in its 18 years of existence. It lives off cash, either from debt or from capital raises. And it is really not very common for a company like Palantir to be getting rid of its debt at this point in its life cycle. Now here's the problem. Why is a company like Palantir, whose cash reserves are its lifeblood, tying up money as gold and getting rid of its debt? At first, it appears to make sense. Inflation is exceptionally high in the United States right now. For decades, we've seen the most severe inflation rates. While the government of the United States seems to believe it's okay and will soon go away, economists are gradually becoming convinced that inflation is here to stay. It's easy to see why Palantir wouldn't want to hold a lot of cash right now, but it's making an odd amount of sense. We must also bear in mind that Palantir paid off the majority of their debt. Now, this may appear strange at first, and it should sound far worse now, because if Palantir expected inflation to rise and keep that debt, this would be a good thing. When the cost of living rises, those who have money lose out. Those with assets remain constant, but those with debt do not. Inflation reduces the debt by eroding away its purchasing power. As a result, when the loan is repaid, the actual amount may be lower than anticipated. If Palantir believes that inflation will continue or even rise, paying down the debt would be counterproductive. But if the economists on the other side of the spectrum, such as Cathie Wood, are correct in their assertion that deflation is a far more significant danger to our economy than inflation, then paying off debt makes perfect sense. When prices fall, loans rise in value, and the burden grows every day, not less. Those who have debt are engaged in a never-ending battle with a progressively more significant amount of money. Debt is one strategy for avoiding deflation. Palantir is preparing for the worst-case scenario. The worst may be something unthinkable. Palantir appears to be ignorant of how the next collapse will begin, who will be involved, and what it will look like on the outside. They appear to be getting ready for it, if anything. And in fact, this should worry us. Palantir is a business focused on gathering and analyzing data. They are essentially an intelligence agency on their own. They are in every major corporation in the United States. They examine supply chains, cash reserves, leverage, and worker productivity, among other things. I'm willing to wager my money on Palantir because I believe it has the data to accurately predict what will happen. And what Palantir has actually come out and said is that the company is preparing for a black swan event. An unpredictable event with far-reaching and severe consequences that we can't do anything to stop. Now, I'm not suggesting that you put your whole net worth into actual gold and bury it in your backyard or start stockpiling canned goods. This news alone is not enough to change how I invest, but it is enough to get me thinking, and it should be enough to get you thinking as well. How well prepared am I for a crash? Am I drowning in credit card debt? And all of my car payments are more than I can manage? Did I acquire a larger house than I needed with a mortgage that I can't afford? These are all questions that we should be concerned with on a good day, and even more so on a bad one.